Today we're going to be talking about Diagnostic Manager and a new feature of adding a server group. So what we're going to go through is the server group. So what is a server group? Well, starting with the 4.9.29.0 version of Diagnostic Manager, you are now allowed to create one or more server groups. Each of these allow you to monitor metrics for up to 10 Windows servers and or client machines that are not associated with the SharePoint farm. In the past, Diagnostic Manager, to monitor metrics off a server, that server had to be a part of a SharePoint farm. Well, this is no longer the case. So it opens up the possibilities of monitoring other servers that you have out there. So what we're going to do is walk through actually how to add a server group. And for some of the references, there is the release notes which discuss this, the advanced installation guide, and the user guide which walk through how to complete this process we're going to do today. So let's go ahead and get started. So we have Diagnostic Manager already open, and as you can see, we have our SharePoint farm added here in the tree view. So what we're going to do is, while we have the home page selected, and we can see this icon ribbon, we're going to go to the Add Server Group icon. And once we select this, it'll start the wizard for us to be able to add that new server group. So this is a single server SharePoint farm, but this environment does have a outside domain controller. So that's what we're going to be adding in as a part of our server group. And this will allow us to monitor the metrics off of that domain controller, as well as our SharePoint farm. So we're going to call it like the server name is called. This allows you to, just like when you add a SharePoint farm, select different accounts to use to gather metrics with WMI, queries for SQL servers, and test page performance. It allows you to specify an alternate account other than the collection service account that's already set. So if you want to specify that, you can always select this, and on the next screen it will allow you to put in the credentials, domain, username, and password for the alternate account you want to use for that specific metric. So we're just going to allow our default collection service account to do this. So we'll go ahead and hit next. It's going to walk through what our name is, what our type is, whether it's a SharePoint farm or this as a server group, and what account is going to be used for each one of these actions. So that is it as far as setting up the server group. So we're going to go ahead and hit finish. We'll see it start adding that group in here. We'll go ahead and collapse our SharePoint farm. So once the group is added, you can see we don't have any servers, SQL servers, or monitored pages in there yet. So we're going to select the server group here, and we'll add a server. So go ahead and put in the server name of the server we want to monitor that's outside of the SharePoint farm, and we'll hit OK. Diagnostic Manager will reach out and begin to add that server into this server group. And now you can see the server is added. And selecting the server, you'll have the same functionality as monitoring that SharePoint server. So we can go in here and edit the alert thresholds for the server. And we have the same alert thresholds that we can select, the CPU, the disk, IIS, memory, and so forth, to monitor these metrics and get reported and alerts back on for that. So you can go through, and again, it's always best practice to maybe let this kind of run for a few days as the default, so you can see what alerts are being returned, and then go back in and make those modifications. Go into the alert thresholds, adjust the thresholds, and which alerts are active, and according to your needs for monitoring that server. But this is how you would do that, is go into those alert thresholds and go ahead and select and pick, and being able to adjust those thresholds accordingly. Other than that, this server will be added. If it was a SQL server, it will fall under this section. So again, in the Add Server Group, you are allowed up to 10 servers per server group, and you can have multiple server groups. So we can go back into the home page and add a new server group, and maybe this one we'll call Monitored Pages. Maybe we don't want to add actual servers on this, but we want to monitor some pages outside of our SharePoint farm. So we can go into the monitored pages here and add new pages to be monitored outside of the SharePoint farm. And you would do that just like you would, is add a page and go ahead and select. So this one we can just put something like this and add that page to be monitored. Oop, and I may have typed something in incorrectly, but this is how you would add that server group in. You could add that monitor page up here as well. And again, you can have up to 10 servers in this server group, as well as multiple server groups out there. And I think that is all. Like I said, it's quite a simple process to be able to add this. This is a new feature in Diagnostic Manager, which is why I wanted to touch on it today, because it does open up the possibilities of where it used to have to be a part of that SharePoint farm. Now you can go outside and beyond that SharePoint farm and monitor the other servers that are needed. So I guess at this point, I'll open it up for questions. And no, the servers being added, they can be other servers a part of that SharePoint farm, but they don't have to be. That restriction of had to be a part of a SharePoint farm and pulling that information back from SharePoint is no longer a requirement. So you can add servers that are completely separate outside utility boxes. I know I've seen some clients that have extra SQL servers out there that are not a part of the SharePoint farm that need to be monitored to make sure the performance is up to par where it should be, or if any issues are happening on that server. So they do not have to be a part of that SharePoint farm anymore. And you can monitor all of that from the console, your SharePoint farm, as well as the other servers that are part of your environments out there. Let's see, is there any other questions? How many servers can I add to a server group? You can have up to 10 servers per server group. And then you can have multiple server groups out there. So you can associate them accordingly with each server group and have up to 10 servers per server group that you can monitor. And that is a mix of servers and SQL servers in that.